On the 27th of December, 2019, the Russian Ministry of Defense held an extraordinary press conference. Standing before a wall of military insignia, Defense Minister Sergei Shoigu made an announcement that sent shockwaves through every intelligence agency on Earth. Russia, he declared, had successfully deployed the Avangard hypersonic glide vehicle, a nuclear-capable weapon that could strike any target on the planet at 27 times the speed of sound. Mach 27. To put that speed into perspective, at Mach 27, a weapon launched from Moscow could reach New York City in approximately 15 minutes. Faster than a phone call to the Pentagon could authorize a response. Faster than any radar system on Earth could reliably track it. And faster, far faster, than any existing missile defense system could intercept it. But the truly terrifying detail was not the speed. It was the trajectory. Unlike a traditional intercontinental ballistic missile, which follows a predictable arc through space, the Avangard skips and glides through the upper atmosphere, changing direction unpredictably at 20 times the speed of sound. It can swerve left, dive down, climb up, or execute sharp lateral maneuvers, all while moving so fast that the air around it turns into a superheated plasma, reaching 4,000 degrees Celsius. No nation on Earth has a proven defense against this weapon. Not the United States. Not China. Not anyone. And Russia was not alone. Within months, China confirmed deployment of the DFZF hypersonic glide vehicle. The United States frantically accelerated its own programs. And suddenly, the world found itself in a terrifying new arms race. One where the fundamental question was no longer who has the biggest bomb, but whether any defense is even possible. To understand why hypersonic weapons represent a revolution in warfare, you need to understand one critical distinction. Speed alone does not make a weapon hypersonic. An intercontinental ballistic missile, for example, travels at Mach 20 or faster during its mid-course phase through space. But an ICBM follows a fixed ballistic trajectory, a giant, predictable arc, that makes it theoretically possible to track and intercept. A hypersonic weapon does something fundamentally different. It combines extreme speed, at least Mach 5, or over 3,800 miles per hour, with the ability to maneuver within the atmosphere. This combination of speed plus maneuverability is what makes hypersonic weapons essentially impossible to defend against with current technology. There are two primary types of hypersonic weapons. The first is the hypersonic glide vehicle. An HGV is launched on top of a conventional ballistic missile, rides it to the edge of space, then separates and begins a long, unpowered glide through the upper atmosphere at speeds between Mach 15 and Mach 27. During this glide, it can execute lateral maneuvers of hundreds of miles, making its final target completely unpredictable. The second type is the hypersonic cruise missile. Unlike a glide vehicle, a cruise missile has its own engine, specifically a scramjet or supersonic combustion ramjet. A scramjet breathes air at supersonic speeds, mixes it with fuel, and ignites the mixture in a combustion chamber where the airflow never slows below the speed of sound. This allows the missile to sustain speeds between Mach 5 and Mach 10 for extended distances at lower altitudes, hugging the terrain to avoid radar detection. Both types share the same terrifying advantage. By the time a defender detects the incoming weapon, there is almost no time to react. The global hypersonic arms race is now a three-way competition between Russia, China, and the United States. And each nation has taken a radically different approach. Russia has prioritized deployment speed over technological perfection. The Avangard system, carried atop the massive Rs-28 Sarmat ICBM, represents the world's first operationally deployed hypersonic glide vehicle. At Mach 27, the Avangard is the fastest maneuvering weapon ever built. Russia has also deployed the Kinzhal, a Mach 10 air-launched ballistic missile carried by MiG-31 interceptors. The Kinzhal made history in March 2022 when it became the first hypersonic weapon ever used in combat, striking an underground weapons depot in western Ukraine. China has pursued an even more ambitious strategy. The DFZF hypersonic glide vehicle, mounted atop the DF 17 medium-range ballistic missile, gives China the ability to strike targets across the entire Western Pacific, including American military bases in Japan, Guam, and potentially aircraft carriers at sea. In July 2021, China stunned the world by testing a hypersonic glide vehicle that completed a full orbit of the Earth before descending on its target, something American intelligence officials described as a technological achievement that defied physics as they understood it. The United States, despite its enormous defense budget, has struggled to keep pace. The Air Force's AGM-183 ARW program suffered multiple failed tests before producing a successful flight in late 2023. The Navy's Conventional Prompt Strike program and the Army's long-range hypersonic weapon are still in development. American officials have publicly admitted that the U.S. is at least 5 to 10 years behind Russia and China in operational hypersonic deployment. But the real question, the question that keeps Pentagon strategists awake at 3 a.m, is brutally simple. Can hypersonic weapons be stopped? The honest answer, as of today, is probably not. And here's why. Current missile defense systems like the American Patriot, THAAD, and Aegis were all designed to intercept threats on predictable trajectories. An incoming ballistic missile follows the laws of orbital mechanics. You can calculate where it will be in 30 seconds and position an interceptor to meet it. But a hypersonic glide vehicle violates these assumptions. It maneuvers. It changes course. Its trajectory is not ballistic but aerodynamic, meaning it can alter its flight path continuously. The detection problem is equally severe. Ground-based radar systems are limited by the curvature of the Earth. A hypersonic weapon flying at 60 to 100,000 feet altitude on an unpredictable path may not appear on radar until it is only minutes, or even seconds, from impact. Space-based infrared sensors can detect the launch, but once the weapon enters its glide phase, the plasma sheath surrounding it complicates infrared tracking. The physics of interception are perhaps the most daunting challenge. To intercept an object traveling at Mach 20, you need an interceptor that can not only match that speed, but also execute real-time course corrections as the target maneuvers. Current interceptors simply cannot do this. It would be like trying to hit a bullet with another bullet, while both bullets are changing direction. Despite the seemingly impossible odds, the United States and its allies are pouring billions into potential solutions. The most promising approach is the Glide Phase Interceptor, or GPI, a classified program led by the Missile Defense Agency. The GPI is designed to intercept hypersonic threats during their glide phase, using advanced sensors and a kill vehicle capable of extreme maneuverability. The program is still years from deployment, but it represents the Pentagon's best hope. A second approach relies on directed energy weapons, specifically high-powered lasers and microwave systems. A laser traveling at the speed of light would eliminate the reaction time problem entirely. If you can track it, you can hit it instantly. The U.S. Navy's /SEQ-3 laser weapon system has already demonstrated the ability to destroy drones and small boats. Scaling this technology to engage hypersonic targets remains a massive engineering challenge, but it is theoretically the most elegant solution. A third strategy is to shift the focus from interception to what the military calls left of launch, destroying hypersonic weapons before they are fired. This involves cyber warfare to disable launch systems, precision strikes on mobile launchers, and advanced space-based surveillance to detect preparations for a hypersonic attack. This approach acknowledges a brutal reality. It may be easier to destroy a hypersonic weapon sitting on the ground than to catch it in flight. The Pentagon has also invested heavily in a new constellation of low-Earth orbit satellites designed to provide continuous, global tracking of hypersonic threats from space. This Hypersonic and Ballistic Tracking Space Sensor, or HBTSS, aims to solve the detection problem by watching the entire planet from orbit. The hypersonic arms race has fundamentally altered the strategic balance of the world. For 7 decades, the doctrine of mutually assured destruction kept nuclear powers in a fragile equilibrium. The certainty that launching a nuclear strike would guarantee your own annihilation prevented anyone from pressing the button. but hypersonic weapons threaten to shatter that equilibrium. A hypersonic first strike could, in theory, destroy an adversary's nuclear command and control infrastructure before they can respond. The speed is simply too great. 15 minutes from launch to impact across an ocean. No warning. No interception. No time to launch a retaliatory strike. This is not a theoretical concern. It is the explicit strategic nightmare that every nuclear power is now grappling with. The arms control community has sounded the alarm. Unlike nuclear weapons, hypersonic weapons exist in a regulatory vacuum. There are no treaties limiting their development, no verification mechanisms, and no agreed-upon norms of behavior. Every test flight by one nation triggers an escalatory response by the others, creating a spiral of development that shows no signs of slowing. The world is entering an era where the fastest weapon wins, and no shield can stop it. Hypersonic technology has opened a door that cannot be closed. The question is no longer whether these weapons will reshape warfare. They already have. The only question that remains is whether humanity can build a defense before the next generation of hypersonic weapons makes the concept of defense itself obsolete.